Hey, how much football is too much football?
No such thing.
Correct. And when it comes to business travel gotta-haves, how much is too much?
No such thing, especially at La Quinta.
Roomy rooms with workspace to spare.
High-speed internet that's as free as an uncovered receiver.
And La Quinta's bright-side breakfast that could fill up a fullback.
Even free coffee that never takes a time out.
There's no such thing as being too ready for that next big meeting.
So prepare to win at business with La Quinta.
Book now at LQ.com.
It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Jason Fitz, Sarah Spain, in for Trey and Mike. And don't forget, you can usually hear us hanging out, Spain and Fitz, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday.
Gratuitous self-promotion.
And quickly, while we're on the process of gratuitous self-promotion, my new Twitter college football show starts tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern.
Gratuitous self-promotion.
7 to 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN's Twitter feed. And Sarah, Sunday, Sarah.
Turn your mic on. You are a professional.
Got to turn your mic on, Sarah.
Mother bleeper. I don't have a mic button at home. Anyway, my promotion was going to be this great E60 that I have debuting Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on ESPN, and I promise my mic will be on.
Gratuitous self-promotion.
There we go. We're going to keep doing that all morning so you guys know what's going on. This hour, Golic and Wingo is brought to you by La Quinta Inns and Suites. Book at LQ.com and win in business. Let's get straight to some of what's trending. Tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, Serena and Venus Williams will face off in the third round of the U.S. Open, their 30th meeting in their careers.
Serena 17-12 against Venus. I actually thought it would be higher for Serena. Venus has kept her on her toes. I love what Venus said. She said, last time we faced off, it was 2-1, so this time it's more fair. Because you remember the last time they played, Serena was pregnant. None of us knew, but Venus did.
Well, it'll be an epic match to watch, no doubt. In baseball, our guy, Shohei Ohtani.
I want you. I think we need to play it every time.
I'm telling you,
Sarah,
every time I don't play it, I hear about it for an hour. They want the Shohei drop. I mean, it is what it is. But Shohei it looks like he's coming back, two-way player again. It looks like he's going to be hitting the mound this weekend.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, this was a guy that we were so fired up about, and then the injury kind of put a little damper on it, and so many of us were concerned about him even coming back to hit and the potential for aggravating the injury. So him getting back on the mound is a surprise to me, and I'm crossing my fingers that he's ready and this won't affect us getting to see him for many years to come.
Yeah, this isn't just about today for baseball. This is about the coming years for baseball, because he has been brought in at such a star level to do something that's once in a generation, once in multiple generations. So I look at this as I can only hope that the team is being cautious enough that baseball fans can get a lifetime of Shohei. That's the biggest piece to me. Speaking of baseball, the Yankees' Giancarlo Stanton became the 5th fastest to reach 300 career home runs last night.
Yeah, pretty awesome. Number 300, unfortunately, spoiled for the Yankees by blowing the lead and losing to the Tigers 8-7. But hey, number 300.
Well, that is something. They are 8.5 back now from the Red Sox, and we were curious what the Aaron Judge injury was going to look like over the course of the month. A lot of conversation about how easy their schedule was during that time, but still, you're asking a difficult task to compete without one of your best players. Stanton, though, has not been the problem. It did take him 10 games, sitting on the
299,
299 for 10 games. I can only imagine that each game you get a little more puckered up for that one.
Well, and you mentioned Judge being out, which is, of course, the reason that they went out and got Andrew McCutchen. So the deal finalized last night. And we now see the Yankees adding the former MVP, which seems like a good enough time to bring in our guest.
Exactly.
NFL front office insider Bill Polian in studio to give us a Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. So before the football Straight Talk, you're a Yankees fan.
I am.
What do you think of McCutchen?
I think that's a great pickup. They needed another bat. They've lost Sanchez and Judge essentially for the entire month of August. To stay 8.5, shameless plug for a friend. Booney's doing a great job keeping him there. The bullpen let him down the last couple of nights, and the previous night against the White Sox, bases loaded. They can't get the hit that changes the game. They need another bat. That's the bottom line, and it's a good move by Brian Cashman.
I do also think it's interesting. Early in the season, we were enamored with the Yankees and Red Sox, both as fantastic teams. When healthy, they are both fantastic teams. If the Yankees can get healthy in time for the playoffs, it's going to be interesting to see where they maximize, because they've made moves to get even better. So, Bill, there's still hope. You might get that.
Hey, listen, there's an old rule in baseball: 6 out on September 1. If you're 6 out on September 1, you got a real chance to win the pennant. So
look at this. Like Bill Polian giving me baseball knowledge, which I could take all, and now he's going to give us some NFL knowledge. Obviously, ESPN NFL front office insider, Pro Football Hall of Famer, 6-time NFL Executive of the Year. So this time of the year is really difficult for a lot of reality for men. There are guys today and in the next 24 hours that are going to lose their jobs all over the league. What's this day like for you as a GM? How do you sort of approach this part of the season?
This is the hardest part for a GM because invariably today you're going to be saying goodbye to somebody who bled for you, who gave you his all. In my case, I was very fortunate to be with a lot of winning teams, and they put a lot of money in everybody's pocket. And the time comes when you have to say goodbye. It's the most difficult, emotional, gut-wrenching thing about our business. It's also difficult to end the dream of a young man who is thinking that, hey, this is my chance. I'm going to make it. In a lot of cases, the money that's at stake would be life-changing for many of these young men and for their families. So it's a difficult time, and no one approaches it in a callous manner. And I made sure that I spoke with virtually every player that we let go and absolutely every veteran, and many of those were tearful.
Yeah, I feel like for all the things that we've gotten out of Hard Knocks, one of them is getting to see firsthand what it feels like to walk into the building, get the call, and have to go give them your playbook and walk out. We don't usually get that inside look at a player who sees his dream end or at least get rerouted. So that's been useful, I think, for us and kind of remembering that around this time of year. Bill, I wanted to ask you about the Teddy Bridgewater trade because I look at the Saints and I was looking at Drew Brees, his year-by-year numbers of games, 16, 11, 15, 16, 16, 16, 16, 15, 16, 16, 16, 16, 16, 15, 16, 16. This guy is always out there. So Bridgewater is clearly a fail-safe in case of injury and maybe going forward because of Drew's age. But I'm surprised that they made this deal now. Don't you think the Jets could have gotten more for him if they waited to see if a team lost somebody to injury and needed a starter?
Well, it's always possible, but from the Saints' perspective, I'll quote Branch Rickey, the greatest general manager in baseball history. The only one you can win is the one you can win now, and they're ready to win now. This is a team that definitely can contend for the Super Bowl, and you could argue that Teddy's the last piece in that puzzle because now they have a backup quarterback who's won a playoff game, played well in a playoff game. He did everything he could to lead the Minnesota Vikings to victory in that playoff game. The kicker missed a 26-yard chip shot field goal. So bottom line is he's done everything he can at the highest level on the biggest stage. So they're getting a guy who can step right in. The sooner you get him, the better chance you have of getting him acclimated into the offense. Teddy's smart, but it's a different offense. So it's a terrific move from the Saints' perspective. From the Jets' perspective, maybe they could have hung on and gotten a little more, but Teddy is a free agent at the end of the year. That drives the price down. The people that were interested in him were people who are ready to win now. Strike when the iron's hot. Get what you can. Don't worry about what might have been. So both teams did well, I think. And Teddy did well, too, because he's in a perfect situation.
Does value change in that situation? Because you're talking about a window for the Saints to win a Super Bowl. Backup quarterback becomes more important. Are you willing to pay more in that situation because you know that that's a hole you need?
Yes, probably. The bottom line is that you're willing to pay more, but in the conversation, if I were talking to you, I'd say, I'm only willing to pay more if I can get him in now. You're going to talk to me 4 weeks from now? No. I'm not. I can't get him acclimated at that point in time. So there's a yin and yang involved there.
Talking to Bill Polian, ESPN NFL front office insider, Sarah Spain and Jason Fitz filling in for the guys on Golic and Wingo. There was rumors that perhaps Aaron Rodgers' new deal would be a percentage of the salary cap, thereby making it less likely to get obsolete as the numbers grow in the NFL. Are you surprised that he ended up just taking a flat rate, even though there are such early guarantees?
No, the people who floated that have no idea how the salary cap works and how clubs view the salary cap. They were not going to do that. That's something that would have to be negotiated in the future, because it would have to be negotiated in a future collective bargaining agreement. You're not going to give that away in a negotiation. That's a sea change in how the salary cap would work, because it would now be a floating salary cap. That's a sea change in the whole system. No one would give that away. anybody who is floating that theory knows absolutely nothing about how the salary cap works.
We're talking to ESPN NFL front office insider Bill Polian. Let's talk about a couple of the guys that are not in camp right now. Specifically, since I'm a Raiders fan, Bill, we're going to start with Khalil Mack.
Of course.
If you're a GM and you're sitting in this situation where you know you have a Defensive Player of the Year candidate and absolutely your best player on defense, where's the miscommunication? Where's the gap?
I don't know that it's miscommunication as opposed to no communication. And as a Raiders fan, you don't want to hear that.
Right.
But all I can do is read the tea leaves from far. I'm not in the room. I don't know what the dynamics are. But when there is no communication, and that appears to be the case, then that's not a good sign, because impasse leads nowhere. It probably leads to a trade, which is why you're hearing trade rumors circulating right now.
So what is the trade value in your mind for Khalil?
Well, here's the way first of all, it's what someone's willing to pay, right? But beyond that, here's the formula that you use. He will be a free agent next year or the year after. I'd have to double check to be sure of that, but he's approaching free agency. He's also 27 years old. All of that drives the price down. And as a general rule, the more you have to pay in the contract for a traded player, the less you're willing to give up in terms of compensation. So the Raiders are going to lose him at any point. He's 27 years old. That's an issue. And so people saying, well, 2 1s and a 2, yeah, in a vacuum that might be true. But as you go through all the list of things that mitigate that, you're probably driving the compensation down a little bit. And if the Raiders are interested in making a trade, and I don't know that, I'm purely speculating here, it may be that they're not getting the price that they want, which may change their equation some too.
We're hearing from Hugh Jackson, very firm stance on Tyrod Taylor as the starter. Do you think Baker Mayfield should be the guy from week 1?
No. Tyrod Taylor has led a team to the playoffs last year, the Buffalo Bills, and played well. Baker Mayfield, if he's in there, when he's in there, will make mistakes. He'll make a lot of them. I think he's strong enough personally and emotionally to handle that. And Cleveland the fans in Cleveland are so starved for victory now that any positive sign would be met with hosannas. But the bottom line is that Tyrod Taylor is a good, solid pro. Sit there, learn, figure out what's going on, watch, and when your time comes, whether it's because of an injury to Tyrod or because they decide that a change is appropriate, then you'll be more ready than stepping in right now.
Is part of that because the Browns are a team coming off a 0-win season? You don't want to put a rookie into a team that is not likely to have a lot of success? Yeah,
that's part of the equation. The weakest part of their team is the offensive line right now. Mm-hmm. They've lost both tackles, really, and they've got to develop a new offensive line. So why put them in that situation?
This is the NFL Training Camp Report brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Protecting your small business is a big deal. Cover what you've worked so hard for. Visit ProgressiveCommercial.com. Bill, let's stay on rookie quarterbacks for a second. Baltimore obviously has an interesting situation because they take Lamar Jackson in the first round. They have Joe Flacco, but RG3 has played well in the preseason. Do you keep 3 quarterbacks if you're in that franchise?
I would. Far be it from me to tell Ozzie what to do. He's a lot smarter than I. He got in the Hall of Fame twice, once as a general manager and once as a player. But I would keep all 3, and here's why. Lamar is going to be on the field in special packages, and so he's going to have to practice those special packages during the week, get used to the people he's playing with. That takes away from being able to prepare as the backup quarterback. Secondly, he's brand new to the league, and they're going to, in those packages, allow him to do what he does well, but that's not playing pure quarterback the way you would have to do it as a backup. So I would say leave him where he is, which is on the field, maybe 10, 15 plays a game in special packages, because with the ball in his hands, he's the most dynamic player in the league. There's only A.B. and Saquon Barkley are in his league with the ball in his hands, so running it. So he's going to be on the field. The question then becomes, can he handle both jobs? My answer would be no. Don't put him in that position. He's capable of it, but don't put him in that position. Keep RG3 And if anything happens to Flacco, Lamar's in his place, in his comfort zone, doing the things that he's capable of doing while learning the job of playing quarterback, and RG3's in there doing it. That's the way I would look at it. But as I say, far be it from me to question Ozzie.
Talking to ESPN NFL front office insider Bill Polian, it's Golic and Wingo. Jalen Ramsey did a great interview with Mina Kimes, or I should say, I guess Mina Kimes did a great story on her interview. He made some comments about Gronk, said he's not that great, and partly that was because when Gronk is against elite corners, his numbers aren't as good as when he's in the slot, which seems inevitable for a tight end. What do you make of that view of Gronk?
He's just wrong. That's simple. Gronk is a great player, whether he's in the slot, whether he's outside, whether he's in motion, whether he's attached. He's a unique player. There's never been anybody like Gronk in the league because he's got size, speed, aggressiveness, hands, great route running ability. He's a unique cat, and just to think about defending him, and we had to do it in Indianapolis for all those years, that's a headache to begin with. Your first discussion, believe it or not, with the Patriots is how do we stop Gronk? Don't forget, the offense revolves around him in many ways. Tom gets all the credit, and that's fair. He's great too, but the offense revolves around Gronk. So you have to spend all this time figuring out how you're going to stop him. And you know what? At the end of the day, you may not have the guy who can stop him. Safeties get overpowered by him. Linebackers, he runs by. If you double him over and under, he can still get in the seam and beat you. He's almost impossible to cover. So Jalen
only injuries can stop him.
That's correct. Jalen needs to learn a little more football before.
Oh, okay.
Woo!
Wow. Okay. He just met Jalen Ramsey where Jalen Ramsey lives, which is a garbage pile of trash talk.
I love it.
Love it.
ESPN NFL front office insider Bill Polian with us. Golic and Wingo, Jason Fitz, Sarah Spain in for the guys. I want to go back to cut down day and get your thoughts from a GM standpoint, because they changed the rule a couple of years ago and changed the way cuts are done. So it used to be done in stages. Now what we see is that 40 players ish on every team are going to get cut over the next 24 hours. Now that you've seen that through a preseason or a couple of preseasons, do you like this new path that they've taken for the way cuts are being handled?
Yeah, that was proposed on the competition committee a number of times when I was on it, and I was for it every time. For one thing, you discover players in the fourth preseason game. The guys on the back end of the roster get to play a lot, and you invariably find players and sometimes even starters. So that's a good thing. Secondly, you get an ability to practice with the full squad all the way through until it's time to get ready for the first game. That helps your starters get limited reps in practice and limited reps in the game so they can get ready. There's nothing but good things that come of it. I don't know why anybody would be opposed to it.
So with that preseason conversation,
you're going to say the same thing as me.
My question is the current preseason format in your mind broken?
No, absolutely not. The question was asked of us as a competition committee many years ago, 10, 15 years ago. Can you get by with 3 preseason games? Underline the phrase get by. Yeah, we can get by with 3 preseason games. It's not ideal. There's going to have to be 2 more contests of some kind, usually scrimmages, because you have to evaluate the players. You have to give every player a chance to win, both for his sake and for your team's sake, a chance to win a job. And finally, over time, 4 preseason games, you get a good view of everybody. And believe me, every player's playing time in the preseason is carefully scripted, and it's done on a week-by-week basis. I'll give you a brief example. I'm taking a little too much time, but I'll give you a brief example. After game 1 of the preseason, Tony Dungy and I would sit down separate and apart from the coaches. I would listen to the coaches' evaluations, as would Tony. And then we would say, who do we want to see more of next week? And there'd probably be a list of 8 guys or 6 guys that were common to both of us. And Tony would say, okay. And then he would go to the coaches and they'd say, I want this guy to play quarter 1 and quarter 2, this guy here, this guy here. And we'd do it after every game so that by the time you reach the 4th preseason game, you had a really good idea of who could help your team, who could be on the practice squad. And that's important. It's not sexy. Media doesn't like it. fans, I think they're sort of agnostic about it. But you got to build your team, and you can't do it without a game. You cannot replicate that in practice because the coaches are not on the field. They're on the field in practice, coaching you. In a game, you're on your own. The only guys that are out there are the guys in the striped shirts and the two teams that are playing. And as the saying goes, when the lights go on, you really find out what a guy can do under the pressure of a game. If you don't have that, you go in with a team that's unprepared. And by the way, you need absolutely 3 contests to get the starters prepared because your body has to adjust to the collisions that take place in football. It's not basketball, even pro basketball, where you play 4 games and you're ready to go. Not the case.
That's why Jerry Jones is an owner, not a GM.
Right.
No, Jerry knows. Jerry knows
for
both
2 preseason
sides.
games.
He knows both sides.
ESPN NFL front office insider Bill Polian. Bill, thanks for your time, man. We
My
appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Thank you.
Golic and Wingo presented by 1-800-Flowers. Surprise a friend or loved one or frankly, Bill with a bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com. When you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, you get another dozen absolutely free. Just go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Coming up, college football season is here, and while the Michigan-Notre Dame game is getting most of the headlines, there's a different game with more serious playoff implications, and we'll have that for you.
Support for the Golic and Wingo Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying homes for a minute. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a whole lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about it. They're calling it the power buying process, and here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. You win either way. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Golic. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data record. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
When it comes to hiring, you don't have time to waste. You need help getting to your short list of qualified candidates fast. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job in minutes, set up screener questions, then zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive online dashboard. And when you need to hire fast, accelerate your results with sponsored jobs. New users can try for free at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms, conditions, and quality standards apply.
It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio, ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. I'm Jason Fitz, Sarah Spain, in for Trey and Mike. I do not support what we just heard. We just heard open lobbying, and when I openly lobbied to be part of the retreat for Golic and Wingo, and Trey and Mike said that I look desperate. Well, guess what, Mr. Golic?
Thirsty.
You look thirsty there. Mike
Downright
Golic.
thirsty.
Mike, hey, you know what? Senior, if you're a big enough celebrity, they just ask. You don't have to beg for it. I was
going to say, are we scraping the bottom of the barrel here on what we consider a celebrity?
I mean, that's the best they can
just
do.
Picking one of our own employees? We can't go outside the mothership?
I mean, Golic's got to remember that just standing on the broadcast, they're not going to pan to him. Like they're going through, they're looking for celebrities. Nobody's going to be like, oh, there's the Golic family. God, I'm throwing all sorts of shit.
They might be after the tailgate tomorrow. Like, wow, there's the Golic family. Whoa.
This got heated. Love you, Golic family. College Game Day on ESPN Radio's Trevor Matich joins us in studio, giving the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. And Trevor completely agrees with us. Mike Golic Sr., not a big enough celebrity to be the picker, right?
I think he's one of the most massive celebrities on the planet. Did you see him on Halloween a few years ago when Gangnam Style was the hot song, dressed up like that video and dancing to it? There is no Kardashian that can live up to that standard.
Wow.
I haven't seen it.
Did we miss the memo on having to kiss the butt of the host of the show we're on?
Well, I mean,
Trevor got it.
I don't know. I just now all morning I'm going to be thinking about Golic Sr. and Gangnam Style. Michigan Notre Dame, obviously the big game this weekend to many people. But before we get there, I know we're going to get there.
All of us will get there except for you. You're not going.
Well, I know. I'm the only person.
Trevor's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Golic's going to be there.
Thank you for the reminder. I'll be here working on my new show. I don't know if you've heard about it.
The College Football Show, live on Twitter?
Yeah, on Twitter. That's right. From 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern.
Gratuitous self-promotion.
7 to 8 p.m. Eastern on Twitter.
Well, that makes you the future.
Yes,
see?
he is.
Trevor, I am a little bit stunned that Auburn-Washington just suddenly is falling under the radar. It's a spectacular game with massive playoff implications. So how do you see that game playing out?
I think that'll be a slugfest. I think it'll be low scoring. And I think that all the pressure is on Washington. Auburn has the ability to make up for a loss to Washington because of the nature of the rest of their conference schedule. Washington is carrying the load for the Pac-12. They only won one bowl game last year. They are seen nationally right now as a conference that's down. The conference championship game last year featured two teams with two or more losses, and everybody knew going into it that the winner of that game would have no shot at the playoff. So the Pac-12 is kind of under the radar now. And I think that Washington needs to come out and get into the belly of the beast in Atlanta, playing a blue blood contender for the SEC championship and show that the Pac-12 belongs. And if they do, then, hey, everybody will look at them and say, hey, the Pac-12's back. If at least the top of the Pac-12's back. If they don't, big problem for the Pac-12 because for the rest of the season, no one out here will pay a whole lot of attention, I think, to what they're doing to each other out there. So this is a huge game for the conference.
Fitz already mentioned the other biggest game of the weekend in that Notre Dame, Michigan. Two coaches that a lot of people are already talking about hot seats, and the season hasn't even begun yet.
Hot seats.
What do you make of that matchup and those two programs?
You know, they're both on the rise, strangely enough. Michigan had a struggle last year. People are saying that Jim Harbaugh has got to put up or shut up now. And that's fair. But I think people forget that games get played. And they look at the 1-5 record against Michigan State and Ohio State. But a couple of those games ended on either controversial plays or a fluky play. Michigan State, a couple of years ago, all Michigan had to do at the end was catch a punt snap and put a foot on the ball, and they win the game. Instead, snap gets muffed. There's a huge scramble for the ball. It ends up in the end zone for Michigan State in the game-winning touchdown. That's an all-timer of a fluky thing. Then you got the Ohio State game a couple of years ago where Michigan led in overtime. It was 4th and 1. J.T. Barrett of Ohio State gets 1 yard. Michigan is convinced that he was short. The officials on replay said they couldn't tell, so they stayed with the call on the field, which was first down, and then they went on to win the game. Had that been 4th down short, then Michigan wins the game right there on that play. And how different will we be looking at Michigan then? Those are two plays that were just a hair. Now, you have to win it, but that doesn't discount all the other good things that Michigan did to get to that point. Harbaugh should not be on the hot seat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and Trevor, so much of the conversation about Michigan in general has been about quarterback play over the last couple of years. Shea Patterson comes in.
Patterson?
Shea Patterson comes in with some heavy expectations. I mean, realistically, he had heavy expectations in the SEC. He now has heavy expectations at Michigan. What's realistic in your mind for Shea?
Realistic is he takes to this pocket pro-style offense, and they bring in some of his mobility because he can run around. His reputation at Ole Miss was that he was a crazy run-around, create, on-the-move kind of guy, and he can do that. But when you go back and watch his throws, there were so many times when he stayed in the pocket in Michigan State and stepped into a terrific pro-style throw. And I think he's got the natural skills to fit really well into what he's being asked to do. I think this will be the first quarterback under Jim Harbaugh that Michigan fans can look at and say, yeah, we can win a championship with this guy.
Talking to Trevor Matich, you can follow him on Twitter at @TMatich. It's Golic and Wingo, Spain and Fitz filling in. You skipped over the Notre Dame part and the Brian Kelly part. Expectations there?
Yeah, high expectation. I have them in the playoff.
Wow.
I think Notre Dame's going to be really good. Now, it'll come down to one thing, and that's the quarterback, Brandon Wimbush. Last year, Brandon Wimbush lost his mind. He lost so much confidence as a passer that he couldn't make the easy slants and the bubble screens at the end of the year. He would throw a bubble screen to a receiver behind the line without a defender there and have it be in the dirt at his feet. That's a mental thing. but by all accounts, he's really improved on a lot of those things during this offseason. And if he can throw to the level of his physical capability, we know he's a great runner, then I think Notre Dame is absolutely a playoff contender.
Do you feel like when you say playoff contender, it's because their play will warrant it at the end of the year? They'll be a top 4 team?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
because there's at least the perception that if Notre Dame wins games, there's enough love for Notre Dame. Somehow they always find their way in. I'm not saying that's accurate, but it at least begs the question.
Yeah, I don't buy that with the committee. People say that because Alabama and Clemson, they all keep getting in all the time, the committee is looking at the big schools and they're giving them the benefit of the doubt. I don't believe that for a minute. I think the committee would be happy to put UCF in last year when they went undefeated if they thought UCF deserved to be in the playoff. And so I don't believe that the committee goes after the Blue Bloods like that. Notre Dame, I think, has been down long enough that what they did in the past is lost to the memory of the kids they're recruiting. Their parents remember it. But the kids, Notre Dame's that team that wins 8 or 9 games, right? And they know there's some tradition there. So now they've got to compete in recruiting on more of an even footing. But Kelly's doing that. And they've got really good players on both sides of the ball. You talk about the offensive line. Last draft, they had 2 guys taken like in the top, 10 or 12 on the offensive line. And this offensive line will be almost as good. So they're really reloading there. So I have Notre Dame beating Michigan in this game.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra asked for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's Hotspots.
Thank you so much, Twitter guy, for reminding us that there are actually islands in Ohio.
Honestly, as far as I'm concerned, there aren't any islands in America outside of Hawaii.
I got you saying that in my ear. I got Brett yelling Catalina wine mixer in my ear.
It's the Catalina wine mixer.
Yes, Catalina, technically an island.
Not technically an island, it's an island.
How can you technically be an island?
Rhode Island's not even an island, so get out of here.
Fact. Big fact.
Big boy talk. Either way, there's no islands in Ohio.
Rhode Island has island in the name, but it's not technically an island. That's why I'm using the word technically with the air quotes.
SportsCenter is brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. When a player doesn't like a contract, they hold out, right? Well, with Straight Talk Wireless, you never have to because there is no contract. And they use the exact same 4G LTE towers as the big carriers, but for a lot less. Straight Talk Wireless, only at Walmart. Refer to terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com. I'm back. I got through one read. I'm back. The first couple hours were good.
Someone just said he sounded hammered, so I guess made it through one read is a good start.
You gotta somehow you gotta rebound. It's one read at a time. I'm getting through this. It's Golic and Wingo, Jason Fitz, Sarah Spain in for Trey and Mike, and we're joined by College Game Day on ESPN Radio's Trevor Matich. By the way, you're going to be in South Bend tomorrow for College Game Day on ESPN Radio. Don't miss it. A lot of new breaking news obviously continues to come out, or at least more information continues to come out on the Ohio State investigation. And that's something that you've been on Twitter. You've had strong statements about. It's been interesting and commendable to watch you come out and talk about some of your life experiences and personal experiences as you analyze this. More information has come out, and I just wonder if you have continual thoughts on the way this is unfolding.
Yeah, I think there's 2 things here. One is that the committee's report, the 23-page report, if you read that carefully and if you also look at their summary of investigative findings from that report, what you see is some things that are really strongly critical of Urban Meyer. I mean, they hammer Urban Meyer on certain things. Other things, though, are supportive of Urban Meyer. The things that are supportive tend to be things that are contractual, red line, fire you kind of things. And the things that are critical tend to be things that are discretionary. So it seems like they disagree with how he used his discretion as a coach to keep the assistant, Zach Smith, around longer than he should have. But from a standpoint of violating contract, according to the report itself, not my opinion, the report itself, he didn't do that. And so,
well, he did, but it was that he did not properly report in written and to the right people. He did report, but not the way he was contractually obligated to.
And that is true. And the report says that. But here's what the report says. If you look at the summary of investigative findings in Section 6, it says that he did fail in his obligation to report upstairs the allegations of domestic abuse by his assistant coach, Zach Smith. but they said he did it in good faith because he didn't understand the triggering mechanism by the information required for him to then have to go upstairs with it. He thought that there had to be legal action, an arrest or a charge in order to trigger that. And what they then found was that a lot of the witnesses that they spoke to in the course of the investigation had the same misconception. And they said right there in Section 6 that Ohio State University needed to do a better job of training their people so that they understood the trigger. So they said, yes, he was in violation of that. But other than misunderstanding what the trigger was, they said that he didn't violate his contract in any way. That's their report, not my opinion. It's what they said.
Well, I think it's worth noting, though, that that's an important distinction, is understanding the requirements as a reporter. And that's something that you spent a significant amount of time as an official reporter at your school being told the scope of. So it's kind of a cop-out to say he didn't understand it. Also that he was influenced by his decision that he didn't believe her. And that's the most troubling thing for me as we look across multiple schools that are struggling with the protection or enabling of people who should have been found out earlier and stopped earlier, whether that's Michigan State or Baylor or Ohio State, is the idea that it is not up to the coach to decide whether he thinks something is a true story or it actually happened. When that allegation occurs, he's required as a reporter to then take that information to the correct places and do it in the way that's outlined in his contract. I understand what you're saying, that it wasn't just a blatant cover-up, but I do think it's meaningful that his comments about 2015 were to say, I didn't even remember hearing about that until someone reminded me, which tells you how very little he thought of it as far as being important and part of his job. When you're working at a university or working at a school with kids, that needs to be something you prioritize.
And Sarah, things like that, the report is very critical against Urban Meyer about. I look at this going forward as to what it will do for future coaches, because coaches do have a mindset that if they can find a reason to keep a player, or in this case an assistant, in the program, they'll try to do that because there's a structure, there's mentoring, there's accountability, there's training. And some players, certainly, if they sever that player from the team, will go back to an environment in their home life where they have far less of a chance to develop into the kind of young man that they want to be. Sometimes you have to separate them. But I think now the benefit of the doubt for players and assistant coaches will be largely erased. That if you have one strike on certain things, even if it's not cross a red line. So I'm lifting out of right now the Ohio State thing. Obviously, the concept of putting hands on a woman in anger is a red line. Mm-hmm. If we lift ourselves away from the specifics and the people in that case, and we talk just coaches in general, if somebody doesn't cross a red line, I think coaches will be less likely to give them a second chance if that person, if they fail in trying to rehabilitate from that second chance within the program, will paint the coach in a negative light. So I think a lot of people are going to get cut loose before they might not have.
Well, this becomes news again because former Ohio State trustee Jeffrey Wadsworth told the New York Times that the board's punishment for Buckeyes football coach Urban Meyer didn't go far enough, and that decision prompted him to resign from his post. So it says he told the newspaper he was, quote, the lone voice advocating for a stronger punishment for Myers, who received the 3-game suspension. We're under the gun here, but I do want to ask you, on First Take the other day, we asked Paul Feinbaum, what happens to Urban Meyer long term? His answer was at the end of the year, he thinks Urban Meyer leaves Ohio State. Do you think next year at this time, Urban Meyer is the coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes?
I think he will be there. I think the public outcry should not determine whether he is still there. I think that it's important for him to do what he thinks right and Ohio State to do what they think's right. But I will say this, that I don't think Ohio State suspended him instead of fired him because they want to win football games. I think we saw with Penn State the concept that if you are painted with an ugly brush, it's not worth keeping a football coach around.
Yep. You guys can follow him at T Matich on Twitter to keep up with a checkout tomorrow. And next up, we're going to go live to South Bend, where the Notre Dame-Michigan rivalry is back after a 4-year hiatus. Golic and Wingo.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra asked for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's Hotspots.
Hey, how much football is too much football?
No such thing.
Correct. And when it comes to business travel gotta haves, how much is too much?
No such thing, especially at La Quinta.
Roomy rooms with workspace to spare.
High-speed internet that's as free as an uncovered receiver.
And La Quinta's bright side breakfast that could fill up a fullback.
Even free coffee that never takes a time out.
There's no such thing as being too ready for that next big meeting.
So prepare to win at business with La Quinta.
Book now at LQ.com.
It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests on the show: Pennzoil Performance Line, Sarah Spain, Jason Fitz, in for Trey and Mike. You can usually hear us 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday on Spain and Fitz. And Sarah, we were just having before Trevor Matich, who just did some great work with us, left. We were having some serious conversation about Ohio State. That's not the only serious conversation coming out of the Big Ten right now.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we at least mention what the ruling was for Michigan State yesterday. NCAA clearing them of any violations relating to how it handled sexual assault allegations, including those against Larry Nassar. We don't have too long to spend on this, but I have some facts that I want to point out. That we talk about stories like this when all the salacious details are coming out, as we are looking at these brave women, hundreds of them, speaking out. But when the story's kind of done, we don't follow up on this part of it, which is the accountability for those who continued to enable him. And that includes people at Michigan State. The legislature in Michigan concluded with, quote, absolutely no doubt that MSU failed to adequately protect students and patients. Kathy Clagis, the former gymnastics coach there, has been arraigned on 2 counts of lying to police about complaints she got about Nassar. Multiple gymnasts have said they told her, and not only did she discourage them from reporting, but she asked them all to sign a card for him when he was off being investigated for this. One of the women who alleged in the Outside the Lines report that they mishandled the allegations she made said she was not even contacted for part of this inquiry. A woman who's representing multiple clients who are suing the university for this was not contacted for this investigation. If the NCAA agrees with MSU, who, by the way, paid out a $500 million settlement to Nassar's victims, which is a sure accountability and a sure acknowledgement of their own guilt in this, if they agree that the sexual abuse of more than 24 student athletes by a team doctor who's working on that staff, including other staff members who were told about it and didn't do anything, isn't a violation of NCAA guidelines, then we need new guidelines. If you need to find cream cheese on a bagel, or somebody ate too much spaghetti, or some kid tried to sell a rap album, and those things are part of the bylaws, but you can't find a precedent for sexual abuse as part of institutional failure, then your bylaws are stupid. And I know we asked the NCAA to do a lot of stuff and they fail at it. But we can't just say, if you're bad at this, we don't expect you to do anything. Their argument is, well, he didn't commit recruitment violations, or he didn't give them banned substances. This is far more serious than that. So to try to use some sort of semantics of what falls under what we expect to be the bylines is cowardly. It's a slap in the face to the women who have bravely spoken about it, and it allows this behavior to continue to be enabled because you can hide behind the BS of what the bylaws are. It just, to me, it's embarrassing that the NCAA would even pretend that this was a legit investigation and try to come forward and say that they didn't do anything wrong.
Well, the criminal and civil portions of this are nowhere near done, right? So that's one thing that we have to remember in this process. When people see today the headline that the NCAA clears Michigan State, that is not a criminal or civil
and they're up
clearance.
in my mentions.
Right.
Oh, okay, we didn't do it. That's not the case. It's been clearly proved over and over again. And these women that are coming forward are now saying that, what's a violation then? What actually matters if the things you care about are coming down hard on how much spaghetti someone ate?
Right. And the NCAA comes back and typically hides behind the we don't investigate criminal action.
Right.
That is usually their...
But we'll do it with Louisville for strippers. We'll do it with Penn State, and then when people criticize, we'll back off on all of that. And that's really the reason this is happening, because with Penn State, people said, oh, you overstepped what you're allowed to do, so we're going to come back on all those things we just put. It re-emphasizes yet again that the NCAA's entire job is just to monetize the sports of amateur athletes. It's not about protecting students. It's not about what's best for anybody involved other than their own pocketbook.
Well, and again, I'll say this again so everybody understands, this is the NCAA, this is not the court system. Yep. So there's still civil and criminal action that will be taken, and that will continue. You mentioned the $500 million settlement.
But they didn't do anything wrong. They just like to give people $500 million.
Well, there's just, and I don't laugh about the situation,
but it's
I laugh at what you're saying.
It's an absurd situation. That's why you have to laugh.
Right. And that's there are more pieces that are going to continue to come down over the coming months and the coming years, frankly, as this is going to take a long time for the legal system to sort itself out. It's just a reminder that the NCAA is not the legal system and that the NCAA flies by a set of rules that when we look at it against the legal system will make absolutely no sense. With that being said, we're going to get you, there's no easy way to segue to light stuff, but we're going to get you caught up on a little bit of what is trending. We got a bizarre event involving controversial Australian tennis star Nick Kyrgios and well-known chair umpire Mohamed Layani, and it sparked a furor is what's written. Fervor. I'm going to go fervor Thursday at the U.S. Open. It's a lot of names there. Look, there's controversy at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, excellent job reading. You nailed it. Essentially,
really feel like I got this. I'm falling down.
Absolutely good reason for Andy Murray and Federer and others to be talking about this. This chair umpire's job is not to go tell him you're better than this. You're good for the sport. You need to come on, get your head in the game. And then he came back and won the match. And also, of all people, Nick Kyrgios doesn't deserve anybody's help. If he doesn't want to put the effort forward, which he's already been fined for in the past, then let him sink.
That's the biggest part of this. You don't get benefit of the doubt when you've already been fined for this.
And admitted it.
If you've already come out and been fined for lack of effort, then you don't get to go down from the ump chair and say, well, you know what?
I thought it was a health issue. Yeah. He might not be all right. No, he was just being Nick Kyrgios.
Yeah, and how about not giving a win one for the Gipper speech to an athlete in an individual contest? Elvis Dumervil decides to step away and ends his NFL career. He recorded 105.5 sacks over his 12-year NFL career, and he's retiring to focus on family and off-the-field business.
He 26th all-time in sacks. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and 34 years old. I mean, I think this is one of those moments.
Decent run.
You tip your hat and you say, man, congratulations to you. But this is also sort of a reminder, Bill Polian earlier talking about the age of Khalil Mack and Aaron Donald, these guys. Like, when you're talking about defensive linemen, you only get so many contracts. It's not the quarterback position where you're going to play till you're 40. So,
but if he's really going to step away to focus on his family, that means he should pop up as the coach at Ohio State in just a couple years.
Wow, look at that. You're just throwing that little nugget in there. We'll just call that fact. We'll just call it, he's the next coach.
Facts.
David West, it's all sorts of retirement news. David West retiring after back-to-back titles. He won titles with the Warriors the past 2 seasons to cap a 15-year NBA career. Does he get an asterisk?
Asterisk? No, he's allowed, I think.
There?
I think David West, really respected guy, smart guy. We could see him surrounding the game in other capacities now that he's done playing.
Yeah, and averaged 6.8 points and 3.3 boards last season for Golden State. But he was big in the playoffs. Key minutes, they got some real contribution.
And smart guy, good in the locker room, good in the huddle.
So that gets you caught up a little bit with what's trending, and now we will continue the conversation of what's going to be. I mean, just the level of trash talking, the level of tomorrow. I can't wait for it. It's Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Jason Fitz and Sarah Spain in for Trey and Mike. And we're going to go to the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, where we are joined by Mike Golic Jr. of First and Last fame, also sometimes on this show, from what I hear. He is in South Bend, and he is going to be facing, I think Sarah v. Mike is going to happen in the parking lot as a tailgate battle. Can you confirm or deny that, Mike?
I can confirm that, but I'm very scared of Sarah, so I'm going to need a lot of liquid courage up till that point, which is good because there's going to be a lot of it to go around.
I was going to say, is this like a 3-point stance face-off, or is this like a flip cup?
It's rap battle.
Oh, okay, yeah. I feel good about that.
Yeah, flip cup into rap battle
Perfect.
Is the way I always envisioned it.
While he was busy playing football at a high level, I was learning stuff, so I think I got this one.
I mean, a flip cup into rap battle could be a YouTube sensation for you guys.
Let's make it happen.
I want to be there for it.
It is ready and waiting to happen. And guys, I'm getting it ready for you, Sarah, right now. It couldn't be better out here. Allow me to paint you guys the picture of the South Bend morning that I'm drinking in right now. It's a crisp August morning in South Bend. The sun, as it tends to do, creeps over the horizon in the east, revealing the outline of the most famous library in the world, the country at the very least, adorned with the famous Word of Life mural. You guys may know it commonly as Touchdown Jesus. The glimmer off the dome, so bright the Virgin Mary almost appears to come to life. She stands over a hushed campus. You're not going to stop me. The silence broken by the pitter-patter of students shuffling to class. The Basilica bell rings with the sound of the fight song. and 2 pugs sit panting at the base of a park bench while I'm merely an hour removed from having cake for breakfast and spending no less than an entire paycheck at the Notre Dame bookstore. College football is officially back, guys, and I'm psyched.
That was beautiful. I'm worried about the rap battle now. I've never heard him put together words so eloquently in my entire life.
Mike, where's my new Notre Dame swag?
It's coming, Jason. Just keep an eye out at your mailbox. It's going to be there sometime between now and February. So
seems disingenuous.
All right, Gojo. So let's get to the real talk. Your sister told me last week you got overserved. You locked yourself out. You passed out on the couch in the common area. What kind of a performance can I expect from you tomorrow? Will I assume that was just you preparing, sort of like your preseason, and by tomorrow you'll be more of a real adult?
Yeah, Sarah, the way I always approach these kind of weekends is I want to get revved up, and then I need to shut it down for about a week. So training for the Combine, training for Pro Day, one thing they tell you is a couple days before, touch about 90% of your 40 max, and then dial it back from there. Perfect. So I consider last weekend 90%. Tonight and tomorrow are going to be 100%. If I blow out a hammy, it is going to be giving my full effort to this weekend.
Mike Golic Jr. joining us on Golic and Wingo. Jason Fitz, Sarah Spain in for Trey and Mike. Okay, so let's get to the game. Who do you think is under more pressure, Kelly or Harbaugh?
I think publicly it'd be Harbaugh. And listen, it's just because he came in there and put such a bullseye on this program. Brian Kelly has come in here and, for the most part, operated a college football program the way any other head coach would. Now, there are things specific to each coach. There are certain things that they do, but there hasn't been nearly the acrobatics that have gone along with Jim Harbaugh's beginning of his tenure in Michigan. He wanted to jumpstart this program in a way that it desperately needed, and so it required him to be a little bit of a character. Some of the things he's done to try and generate recruiting interest, sleeping over at recruits' house, the trips overseas, all of these things that we've seen defy the norm and ruffle a lot of feathers around college football, and this is what happens to everyone. We're talking about Jalen Ramsey, I know, coming off Mina's article the other day. When you're someone who is as outspoken or willing to put yourself out there, what in turn happens is we ramp up expectations because we don't like you defying the norms and standards. So what Brian Kelly has done here at Notre Dame, while successful in certain stints and underwhelming in others, has been closer to the norm. And so I don't think you're going to get nearly the heat and the blowback that Jim Harbaugh gets. And he's courted that, and I think he's comfortable with that.
Talking to Mike Golic Jr., first and last, and this very show, it's Golic and Wingo, Spain and Fitz filling in. Any plans for you or Senior to be involved in College Game Day, which will be at tomorrow's UM-ND matchup?
Yeah, we got some things under construction right now. I don't want to give away too much, but I'm very excited about a particular instance that you guys will see on College Game Day. It is a tradition here at Notre Dame, very near and dear to my heart, and something that I'm excited they have decided to keep going. So I will say no more than that, but you can expect to see some of the Golics coming up as the weekend progresses.
I'm hoping it's a fashion show with those new pinstripe pants. I think you guys will both look great.
I look a lot better in them now than I would as a player. I said, unfortunately for the offensive linemen, not going to be a lot of parallel lines on those pinstripe pants when it comes for game day.
Mike, let's have an honest moment here. You may have described my attempt to be included in the Golic and Wingo retreat as desperate at some point. Does it not seem desperate for your dad to be trying this hard to get on College Game Day?
No, you know what, Jason? It's not desperate as much as it is sad. And I don't say sad for my father to want to be a part of a day at his university. I think it's sad that we have to ask our employer to make this happen, that it's not just a given, that it wasn't something they thought of right away. Look, Brian's a great guy. He wears those tight jeans very well. Quite frankly, I'm not sure how he gets in or out of them. It's something that approaches a level of magic that I don't quite comprehend. That being said, I'm not sure of his connection here. He's going to look great. The smile's going to be awesome, but I'd like a little bit more of a homegrown connection to the university, and who does it better than us? So I think I'm a little disappointed in the worldwide leader on this one. Game Day is going to do a great job. I'm excited to see everyone in town, show them around, hook them up with any breakfast spots. But just know I'm going to withhold a little information now because we feel a little hurt.
And I understand a little of that hurt feeling. I'm just saying that when you do something like this, I don't know if you've heard this yet, you should probably hear this.
This fall, there's only one man we can rely on.
What do we have to do to get Golic as one of the celebrity pickers one of these Saturdays?
Only one man who exudes professionalism.
Will it be a problem if I'm drunk?
This fall, vote Mike Golic for celebrity picker at College Game Day. Endorsed by Kirk Herbstreit.
We got to get you on the set to have you do the dance.
Careful, he may show up naked.
And a definitely unbiased endorsement from Notre Dame's Brian Kelly.
I don't know why you're not the celebrity.
And Stuga.
You have my vote, Mike Golic. Not that my vote means anything.
Well, yeah.
Vote Petty, vote Golic.
I'm Mike Golic, and I approve this message.
Mm-hmm.
Thirsty.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. That's pretty sad. Once we got involved, too, it's just, that felt egregious. Never mind. We should honestly be asked to leave Canada.
So, who are you picking to win this game?
Oh, come on.
No, he's going to be fair and reasonable.
Oh, come on.
Fair and reasonable. You are going to be an analyst for a second. Take your Notre Dame hat off, that shiny chrome of yours, and instead pick it like an analyst.
Chrome or a dome?
Chrome dome. That's what I was going for.
It's a chrome dome, as one would probably put it. No, I'm going to pick Notre Dame for this one. And honestly, I've had to be talked into this by the other analysts. I heard Trevor just on with you guys talking about Notre Dame as a playoff team. And that's always something that's going to make me uncomfortable because that was a part of a lot of really disappointing seasons in South Bend where we came in with a lot of expectation. And I, as a part of this team, underdelivered. So you can imagine it's a hard thing to reconcile with. But I got a chance to go out and see the team, and so much has been talked about the quarterback and what Brandon Wimbush is going to do and the steps he's going to take this season. Man, I tell you, this receiver group, man, Alize Jones, their tight end, Chase Claypool, their one of their wideouts, Miles Boykin. These are big, rangy athletes. These guys are going to give him all of the catch radius in the world. So, you know what? If Brandon Wimbush, especially coming out of the gate, isn't quite as accurate as he might develop towards later in the season, has to rely a little more on those legs, as long as he gets in the vicinity, I promise you, these guys are terrifying to see in person. And I think they're going to be terrifying for a Michigan defense that is great up front, but might get tested on the outside. The Notre Dame skill group is the one I watch and am most interested in because we know the battle up front. We know what Rashawn Gary and that defensive front seven in Michigan are going to bring. We know the tradition of the Notre Dame offensive line, but I think the skill for Notre Dame and the size that these guys have on the outside is going to be the difference.
Talking to Mike Golic Jr., first and last, and this show. Let's get through some of the other ranked matchups this weekend. We mentioned it earlier. What are you making of the number 9 Washington, number 6 Auburn matchup in Atlanta?
Yeah, this one is interesting to me. Again, I focus so much on the front sevens, but Jared Stidham is a kid who I've gotten a lot of up and down hype over the last couple of years as the quarterback position at Auburn, and he's a kid who transferred over from Baylor, has all this ability in the conference that's usually starved for it, that starts to seem to be trending in the right direction. So I actually think so many people talk about how this hinges on the Pac-12's hopes with Washington and what they bring to the table for a conference that has struggled for relevance in the college football playoff era. I see this as a lot more meaningful when you look up at this Auburn team who is in a crowded SEC West that we know has been dominated by one team for a long time. And I think now they're replacing Kerryon Johnson, a couple of high quality offensive linemen and All-Americans, have a great defense, but that offense has to show me as much as the offense on the other side, where certainly Washington is hoping from a rebound year at the quarterback position for them after an inexplicably down 17.
Mike, you talk about Auburn a little bit, and Jared Stidham, obviously, we expect he's going to take some leap forward. If he does take a leap forward, do you think that Auburn can somehow contend with Alabama in the West?
Well, I think so, because we always talk about what's Alabama's kryptonite, and it's a mobile passer. And when you combine a mobile passer with the athleticism and the extending playability that Jared Stidham has, with the fact that Alabama's biggest question mark this year, it seems like the first time for a while, and it seems like we're going to say this now and then a couple weeks in when these kids do what Alabama kids in the secondary do and be great is, we're all going to shut the hell up. But for right now, Alabama's replacing their entire secondary, and that can't go understated in a college football world, and especially in an Alabama defense where so much is asked of you from the neck up. The one thing we always talk about, the physical prowess and the star power attached to these kids, but the level of professionalism and the feature that we've been running, the series about Alabama's training camp on ESPN, gives you a little insight. But man, when I talk to Marcus Spears and some of the guys from the SEC Net that are around these programs and down on the sidelines, the way these kids communicate and are expected to communicate with one another during games, during practice, is at an NFL level, and the adjustments that they're making are at that level. And so for kids that are not used to that have not been asked to do that before in a live setting, that's a lot to put on their plate. And as the year goes on, we'll see if they're able to accept that the way that most kids in Alabama have in the past. But it at least opens up the possibility that you can identify and try and target that area, in addition to a few others on that defense that for the first time look a little more vulnerable than we're used to.
Gojo, last game I want to ask you about that number 25 LSU versus number 8 Miami in Arlington. What do you make of that matchup?
It's interesting for me. You want to talk about coaches on the hot seat. I'm very interested to watch Ed Orgeron this year, because I think him and even Clay Helton out in USC are two coaches that if you look at those programs, as much as they enjoy and represent a lot of the good things about them, they're not usually the names and the kind of star power we associate with those kind of spots. And so you wonder truly how long the leash is there. If things don't go well and Ed Orgeron is not able to inject some life into an offense that last year with Matt Canada, who came in with a lot of this fanfare from his time at the Pitt and ran this sort of complicated chess match of an offense, if they're not able to make it work now that someone's a little more in line with Ed's sensibilities is there, I truly wonder what this looks like if this season goes south faster than expected for them. So I'm very interested how this kicks off because Miami's going to be another one. They bring a ton of quality defensive talent back. Certainly Rozier, it gets pointed to on offense a lot as a question mark, but outside of a few games last year, I know a lot of the numbers point to, wasn't really as bad as we all tried to make him out to be. So very interested to watch that as it kickstarts what I think is a pivotal year for Ed Orgeron and LSU.
Mike, great stuff. Y'all enjoy the game and behave and make sure that you have way too much fun.
We'll send you a lot of pictures to make sure you feel properly bad enough about not being
mostly private via text and not social media.
Actually,
after a certain point.
Sarah didn't know this yet, but Mike's already committed whether he wants to or not. Mike and Sarah are both going to send cell phone videos from the parking lot. It has to be outside the stadium to be included on my fantastic
The College Football Show live on Twitter.
That's right. It's going to include a little Sarah Spain and Mike Golic Jr. Right, Mike?
Oh, yeah, sorry, my phone line's breaking up here. Missed that last part. Bye.
Good talk.
Also, I can't hear either, even though I'm sitting next to you. My broken up.
Yeah, you guys both stink. Coming up, the best sibling rivalry in sports takes center court tonight, and we'll head there.
Support for the Golic and Wingo Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying homes for a minute. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a whole lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about it. They're calling it the power buying process, and here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. You win either way. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Golic. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data record. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
When it comes to hiring, you don't have time to waste. You need help getting to your short list of qualified candidates fast. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job in minutes, set up screener questions, then zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive online dashboard. And when you need to hire fast, accelerate your results with sponsored jobs. New users can try for free at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms, conditions, and quality standards apply.
Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance.
I won't stand for this.
Jason Fitz and Sarah Spain, we're hanging out for Trey and Mike. By the way, don't forget you can usually hear Spain and Fitz Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio.
Gratuitous self-promotion.
So be sure to check us out. We are now going to be joined by Pam Shriver, ESPN tennis analyst. Pam, thanks for some time. We wanted to talk to you a little bit, obviously, because along with everything else going on in the news and tennis right now, Serena and Venus are going to meet again tonight, and Tony Kornheiser had some strong statements on this. I want to get your thoughts on it right out of the gate and see what you think of this. So check this out.
It's been an exciting event every time it's happened in the run-up. But afterwards, each of them says, I'm uncomfortable out
Exactly.
there. It's my sister. I don't really want to play her. At this point, with Venus being 38 years old, which is incredibly ancient for tennis, Serena's a far, far better and more accomplished player. And if I was being asked to be a pop psychologist, which I will, I would tell you that I think Venus will move out of the way for Serena. Because she wants Serena to pass Margaret Court for the most singles majors of all time.
Are you saying it's prearranged?
I'm not saying it's prearranged, but I'm saying that if it goes 3, I'm not sure it'll be competitive in the third set. And I'm saying there are other factors at work here because of the nature of their relationship that it's almost a turn away for me. That I'm not sure I want to sit and watch it.
Pam, how do you react to that?
Well, I feel like Tony's comments were from 15 years ago. Were they really from just recently, or like when were they when were they grabbed from Tony?
That's from
yesterday.
Yesterday.
Oh, well, Tony had a little throwback moment. You know, their matches more recently have had a pretty wide variety of quality. They've gotten much more comfortable with playing each other than they did in the beginning. There's so many factors coming into play tonight for tonight's match, you know, with Serena coming back from a year ago when she had her child and all the complications, and her comeback has been a little slow, with a highlight being the finals at Wimbledon, though she didn't play well. And then Venus has been struggling this summer with her knee, but here they are. They battled through their first two matches, and we get to see the 30th meeting of two of the greatest of all time.
Pam, they're meeting in the third round. It's the earliest they've met in a major in 20 years. Do you think it changes the dynamic at all?
You know, they've gotten a little bit used to this. They played early. The first tournament back for Serena was very early in Indian Wells. They played at the U.S. Open a few years ago, well before the finals. You know, the times, because of Venus's ranking most of the time being not anywhere close as high as what it was in her prime, they haven't played in the finals of majors very often in, say, the last 7 or 8 years. So I don't think it changes the dynamic that night that much. It's still Friday night, prime time, ESPN, where the draws opened up. This match is a crucial match to see whether or not the winner of this one, I think most people feel that Serena is more healthy and is going to win, but not because of the sisters' emotions are going to get in the way. Serena's just playing, I think, a little better, a little healthier. And the winner of this match tonight has got a really good chance to make a run through to the finals and perhaps win the Open.
We're talking to Pam Shriver, ESPN tennis analyst, and let's stick there for a second. You mentioned Serena's getting healthier. Where do you feel like she is in her process at this point?
Well, she still has a ways to go, and she's even said this summer, I'm just getting started. And listen, having had 3 kids in 15 months myself, I was long finished playing, but I know, especially when you have a C-section, I didn't have any of the other complications she had, but it is not something that happens in a matter of a few months. So she's going to look at this as more of a long-term project. So I think we'll see the best tennis post having her baby in 2019. But I still think with her mentality, her weapons, if she remains healthy, she can win number 24 here.
Talking to Pam Shriver, ESPN tennis analyst. Serena versus Venus tonight at 7 Eastern on ESPN. It's so hard to tell, and, you know, we tend to try to retire people too early. But how many years of high-level play do you think the Williams sisters have in them?
Well, how many years of high-level play? That kind of depends on what your definition of high-level is. I think I'm a little concerned about what I've seen from Venus this summer, actually all year. Her year in the majors last year was the best as far as win-losses. This year, before the U.S. Open, I think she'd won 2 matches in the majors. I feel like for the first time when I've seen her play the last 6 months, she is definitely a step slower. I question whether or not she's putting in the same long hours that she put in to get back to the top 5 in the world. But she can still do it, but her knees have to be healthy, her serve has to be a weapon, and she has to be, obviously, like Roger, smart with her schedule, but she's going to have to really dedicate herself even more if she wants to, as she said, play in one more Olympic Games in Tokyo in 2020.
Talking to Pam Shriver, ESPN tennis analyst. We've talked a lot this morning about the Nick Kyrgios controversy with the ump coming down and talking to him in the middle of the match. Have you ever seen anything like that before?
Not quite as long as that. Look, chair umpires have a lot of different ways I sit courtside often for ESPN. I have seen a lot of communication between the chair umpire and the player. Generally, almost always, the chair umpire remains in the chair, leans down, and says quietly some sentences. It may be a soft warning about the clock. It may be a soft warning about coaching coming from. It may be something like, a soft warning on the conduct, or the player may have something to say to the umpire that they need. But for Mohamed Lehani to have gotten down off the chair and counsel him the way he did, Nick Kyrgios, was I had never seen it before. I do know that Nick Kyrgios is in an unusual situation where he's been on probation from the ATP Tour for lack of trying. I don't remember all the different steps that needed to be taken when he was given that probation, but everybody's eyes are on this young talent. He obviously struggles on the court, maintaining consistent. Forget about concentration. Remaining consistent with his effort, with his language, with his intent to be a professional tennis player. And I think the game is struggling to try and figure out how to help this young man. Obviously, he has to want to help himself, his close camp, his family, his mom. You know, he clearly needs to get some counseling on how to deal with whether it's his own neurodiversity, the way his brain works, the way he is as an athlete. But if he keeps presenting himself as he presents himself, it's going to really cause the game to have to make some very difficult decisions because it is detrimental to professional tennis. In my view, what the umpire was doing was a very human moment where he got down off the chair. He wanted to look him in the eye. That's how, you know, a lot of people, you can't communicate from up on a chair to Nick Kyrgios in Muhammad's eyes. He felt he needed to get down and look him in the eye and say what he wanted to say. He just should not have given him any kind of encouragement. He should have asked if he's healthy, asked if he needs help, tell him that his effort level is not acceptable, and just leave it at that.
Pam, awesome stuff. Pam Shriver, ESPN tennis analyst. You guys can check out Serena versus Venus tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN.
Everybody's got to check it out.
Yeah.
Who knows if it'll ever happen again.
That's true. Could be the last time.
Absolutely. Great stuff. Pam, thanks for joining us.
Thanks,
we appreciate
Pam.
it.
Thank you.
Great thoughts on Kyrgios.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot to that.
And she's right. You know, we don't know when we're going to not. I mean, this could be the last time you see Serena versus Venus. So anytime you have the chance to watch history, you got to check it out. Coming up, Spain and Fitz is in for Golic and Wingo. So we're going to bring you one of our weekly segments next. It's called Not Necessarily Sports Tinder.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra. Ask for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's hotspots.
The ESPN NFL front office insider Bill Polian with us.
Jalen Ramsey made some comments about Gronk, said he's not that great. What do you make of that view of Gronk?
Jalen needs to learn a little more football.
Wow, okay. He just met Jalen Ramsey where Jalen Ramsey lives, which is a garbage pile of trash talk.
I love it.
Love it.
Golic and Wingo.
Bill Polian trash talking. That's gold right there.
Love
Sports Center
that.
brought to you by Dell. Dell's Labor Day sale for small business can save you up to 40%. That's right, 40% on select PCs with Intel Core processors. Plus, get free shipping on everything. Our small business technology advisors can help you find just the right tech. Visit Dell.com/business deals or call 877-BUY-DELL.
That's right. And it's Friday, and it's the end of the show, and it's still very early in the morning for Tinder, but we're going to do it anyway. We're willing to swipe when the swiping's hot.
That's
sports.
You know,
Tinder.
We do this. I mean, what's better than getting ready for the club? Tinder. Like, there's no need to go to the club. The club's on your phone.
Club's coming right to you now. So we do this on Spain and Fitz, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern every Monday through Friday night on ESPN Radio. So we're bringing it here. And let's start with Noel Gallagher. He found a copy of an unreleased album he previously thought had been destroyed in his sock drawer. Former Oasis star made a space rock album recording under the name Amorphous Androgynous. You want to listen to that album?
I am going to
swipe left.
If there was a swipe down super dislike, I'd do that on this. Look, I was a little into it at first, thinking one of two things. Maybe he found like something new, because let's face it, you find an album, I'm thinking, okay, maybe he found like a drive that has a bunch of songs on it. He's like, oh my God, I thought I lost those. Okay, I could see that. But when it's, what's the space record?
Space rock.
Space rock. No, I don't want to listen. I barely want to listen to Oasis, but I don't want to listen to space rock. I'm completely out.
I'm going to
swipe left.
Yeah, again, if it was maybe some lost early Oasis tunes, I'd be down. But I don't need a space rock album under the name Amorphous Androgynous, so I'm out. San Francisco 49ers QB Jimmy Garoppolo, one of the newest members of Jordan Brand. He grew up in the Chicago area during peak MJ. So he told ESPN this week it was a dream to sign with Jordan's signature brand. Would Jordan be the brand you'd sign up with?
I am going to
swipe left.
Heck no.
Boo.
When if I'm going to sign up with the brand, look, and listen to me, brands that want to sign me, I'm available. If I'm going to sign up for a brand, I want as much swag as humanly possible.
Gratuitous self-promotion.
Thank you. So I want everything. I want hats, gloves, scarves, all of it. And Nike gives me more of that than the Jordan brand. The Jordan brand's like a subdivision of all of this. I want all of it. I want to know that I can go get underwear if I want that day and it's going to be free. Nike gives me the most opportunity. Plus, last time I checked, my beloved Raiders have a swoosh. So I'll stick
giant sellout. I have to.
Yes.
Swipe up.
Duh. Of course.
I'm a sellout.
I might as well already be a member of Jordan Brand, considering how much Jordan stuff I own and will buy. I even used to have to eat a little bit of MJ's secret stuff candy before every competition I had in high school and college. It came out around the time of Space Jam. And even years after it probably was no longer suitable for consumption, I was still making sure I had that MJ's secret stuff candy before I competed, while listening to Be Like Mike on my Walkman, while making marks that made the letters MJ with my tape for my marks for high jump and long jump and everything else. So I'm already all in.
That is staggeringly weird, but also awesome. It's amazing. By the way, Jordan Brand, you can reach her at Sarah Spain.
Sarah Spain.
At Sarah Spain. Reach out. Come on.
At me, please. Weekly dose of olive oil could be better than Viagra at helping boost a man's performance in the bedroom. This according to new research from scientists at the University of Athens. Just 9 tablespoons of olive oil, enough to reduce impotence by around 40%. It's also good for other stuff. You add more olive oil to your diet?
I am going to
swipe up. Super light.
Heck yeah. First of all, I'm on the wrong side of 40, right? So you'll take all the help you can get. Second of all, if you're a power lifter and you can squat 580 pounds, you don't look at it and say, that's enough. No, the next day you go and you're like, I want 600 today. That's where I'm going. I mean, you just keep me rolling more and more and more.
All right, this is a weird question to ask me if I'm adding more olive oil to stop my own impotence. So I'm going to
swipe left.
And not because it doesn't apply, but because not necessary. My husband's fine.
Wow. He is fine, though. Wow.
Just
yeah,
saying.
Was that gratuitous self-promotion?
Gratuitous self-promotion.
Fans seated along the left field foul pole at the Indians-Twins game on Wednesday night took a ball right off his head. Hard hit foul. He was fine, which is most important, but he immediately blamed the woman in front of him with the, I thought you had it, and then left his seat to go get ice not long after. Is she to blame for him getting hit in the head?
I'm going to
swipe left.
Heck no. I mean, he wasn't paying attention, and he was like totally angry about it. I mean, it wasn't just like a laughter of, thought you had it. No, he was like just mad. He was embarrassed. Just own it, man. If getting plunked in the head in a baseball embarrassed you, you don't want my life.
I'm going to
swipe left.
It definitely was not her fault. If you look at how many foul balls, home runs, etc., go into the stands, you cannot count on the person in front of you to get it. The likelihood of the person actually catching it is probably 5%. Like, usually they're going to whiff, so he shouldn't have blamed her. That being said, he gets nailed in the noggin. Shortly thereafter, they throw up a ball, and she can't catch that one either, even though it's very lightly tossed directly at her. It goes right through her hands to the guy, and he gives it to her, and she takes it. He just got drilled in the head. Let him have the ball.
That is fair. I'd have done the whole Dikembe Mutombo like finger wag and kept that ball. Like,
I mean, she totally whiffs as they throw it right to her. The guy's still holding the noggin knot on his head, and she's like, "Oh, thanks, I'll take that." And then he leaves presumably to get much needed medical attention, and she's just like, "I'm so happy I got the ball."
Wow. Yeah, I'm with you.
Not
we
feeling
agree
it, girl.
on that. By the way, I don't know.
Work on those hands too, lady.
I don't know if we've told you guys this, but it should be noted. Sarah's going to be on First Take in just a little bit today.
Am.
You can check it out there. Tomorrow night, I'll be on Twitter, 7 to 8 p.m. with college football. And Sunday, you've got your first E60, 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. 9 a.m. Eastern.
I guess I didn't say it enough times.
No, that's my fault. I had PM on the brain. And you can usually check out Spain and Fitz Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern. Look at all
Nailed
of that.
it.
You're welcome. The Dan Le Batard Show is next with some guy.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach.